Hey, thanks for joining me. In this particular video, we're going to be looking at the Jackery Explorer 1000 solar generator. Now, I didn't intend initially when I bought this to do a video on it, primarily because there are a lot of videos on this particular model and actually some of the smaller capacity models that Jackery sells already up on YouTube. But then it occurred to me, one of the things that I noticed was a common thread in most of the videos that I saw is that they were sponsored videos. I bought this and the solar panel behind me with my own money. So there's no sponsorship going on here whatsoever. So these are my complete unbiased opinions about this product. The 1000 is the highest capacity model that they sell. And the reason I bought this particular one is because I wanted to err on the side of having too much power rather than having too little power. And the reason we bought this to begin with is we recently bought a Honda Pilot SUV to go car camping and do some dispersed national forest camping and that kind of thing. And I'll put a link. There's actually posted the first video that I did on our very first trip where we actually used the Jackery and the Honda Pilot. Where Nakia and I took our two dogs with us down into northwest Arkansas to Ozark and Ouachita National Forests. Let's talk a little bit about features and costs and that sort of thing. This is fairly pricey. These things run about $1 a watt. So the 1000-watt version, as you might guess, is $1,000. The solar panels that Jackery sells, they sell a 60-watt version and the 100-watt version behind me. And those are about $3 a watt. So that solar panel at list price is $299 or 300 bucks. I did get it on a slight sale. I was actually holding out to try to buy these on like a Black Friday sale or something. And then right about the week before or so, Jackery had like some sort of anniversary sale where they had little package discounts. And I saved, I don't know, about 100 bucks, maybe 75, 100 bucks on this guy, and somewhere around $50 or so on the solar panel. I will say that the solar panels from Jackery are pretty expensive compared to other solar panels that you can get. And there's some pros and cons to that, which I'll get into a little bit later. So this $1,000 solar generator, that's a lot of money. So, I kind of wanted to try to answer the question, who is this for? What can you do with it? And is it really worth the money? So now that we got the cost part out of the way, let's take a look at what it does have. Now, it is kind of billed at, like it says Explorer 1000, and I think the box says it's like 104 watts or something. And I've seen some testing on this, and it actually will output, I think, a total of like 935 watt hours from this thing. So it's about 93% efficient, which is actually quite good. And they do that, as I understand it, to preserve a little bit of battery capacity so that you don't completely deplete the thing. And it keeps the battery healthy. So on the front, you can see they've got the 12-volt adapter. They've got a standard sort of USB-C connector, a normal USB 5-volt 2-amp, and then a quick charge 3.0 USB connector down here on the bottom. So these are all from the DC inputs, and so anytime you connect devices here, you just click the DC button to activate the power to those ports. And when you're charging devices from the DC side, you don't need to use the inverter. So that's the most efficient way to use power on this. When you use the actual plugs over here on the AC side, it does have to power the inverter, and there's a few watts that you give up while it's powering the inverter. So it's a little less efficient, but still does quite good coming out of the AC. Now there are three plugs on this thing here. You've got your DC input here that you use to charge the thing, either with the solar panel or the included AC adapter here. That's this guy, little power brick. And they also give you in this little neoprene case a 12-volt adapter that you can charge from your car. And there are pros and cons to each of these methods. Now in my case, I ordered the Jackery and the single solar panel rather than the dual 100s, mostly because I wasn't sure if I was going to use the solar panel and because there's some use cases there that I'm not sure are always going to apply to me. So I didn't want to buy both solar panels at that sort of exorbitant price without knowing if I was going to even use the one. So I bought the one as sort of a trial. And I think there are cases where I'm definitely going to use it. And again, I'll get into that in a minute. Now they also shipped me, it says gift here on the box. I wasn't expecting this, and I don't know, to be honest, whether or not they ship these with every package that you order. I think they may be offered as a gift anytime you buy a panel and the generator in one order. I could be wrong about that, so you'll want to check if you're going to do that. But basically, it allows you to connect the SolarSaga panels behind me, 2 of them. Basically, you plug the panels into this parallel adapter, and then you plug the parallel adapter into one of these Anderson ports up here. So it allows you to effectively combine 2 of these panels in parallel, so you're getting a maximum of 200 watts input into the Jackery, so you can charge it in half the time that you would if you just had the one. So I think that's what this guy is all about. In fact, I've never actually opened this, so let me take a quick look. Oh yeah, so you connect it to the Jackery using the Anderson connectors, which are right here, and then this gives you the ability to plug your 2 SolarSaga panels from Jackery into this. Now you won't be able to use this cable with standard solar panels that you might buy as an alternative. You'd have to wire those separately in parallel, and then buy another adapter cable to allow you to take it from that into there, because your standard solar panels don't typically have this sort of whatever this is, 8mm input or something like that. They don't have that kind of a connector. All right, let's talk about recharge times. All right, so I'll put a video up here just so you can kind of see how I was using it while I was on a trip. But with a single solar panel, you can get a maximum best case scenario of 100 watts input on that thing. Now in my case, I've only been able to get about 90 to 95 watts as the peak I've been able to get out of it. And I think that's pretty typical of these things. And really that depends on how much sun you're getting, how direct the sun is, how well you have aligned the panel. So all those things very significantly impact how much wattage you'll get. So if you are charging this with a single 100 watt panel, and let's say you're getting around 90 watts, it's a pretty bright sunny day, it would take you 12 hours approximately. And that's kind of with a single panel, and that is making sure that you regularly adjust the panel and you don't have any clouds, and you're able to maintain the panel alignment with the sun. So that's kind of a best case scenario. Now if you have two panels in parallel with an adapter cord feeding this thing, 2 100 watt panels, you can charge this thing in about 6 hours approximately. So that's a little bit more realistic, and typically when you buy their little package deal, it comes with 2 panels instead of just the one for that reason, because it's not often you get 12 hours of beaming sunlight, but 6 hours might be more realistic. Now, who is that for? In our case, we typically are up and out and we're moving from campsite to some trailhead or something like that. And this kind of solar panel, it collapses and it's very convenient. It folds in half. It's got little magnetic connectors that hold it. And it seems very well built. It's got the cable integrated. And by the way, it's got its own couple of USB ports inside the cable bag compartment. So you can power your phone off this thing directly without even plugging it into the Jackery. So that's kind of cool. But for us, there aren't that many cases where we are going to be sitting around in the sunlight all morning in a way that really justifies buying 2 solar panels. Now, as you saw in the video, I did use it, and I was able to charge the thing. I probably gave it another 8% charge or something like that in the time that we were having breakfast in the morning. And it just so happened that we were well positioned at that particular dispersed campsite to get really nice direct morning sun. That wasn't the case on the other days. We were either surrounded by trees and weren't getting much sunlight, or it was overcast. And by the time the sun came out, we were already well on our way down the road. But if you've got a permanently mounted solar panel on top of your car or something like that, then you could charge it that way. Just plug it in and charge it while you drive, or you can charge it off the 12-volt adapter, as I mentioned before, which is kind of the next thing, directly from your car while you're driving. Now, you're not going to want to charge it while you're not driving very often, otherwise you're going to run your car battery down. But this thing, if you're just in accessory mode without the engine running, you'll get something like 45 watts out of this. You'll get 75 watts out of this 12-volt adapter, at least in my particular case I did, when the car is running, which is typically how you're going to recharge this. Now, we did a lot of driving on this trip, and frankly, that's how I recharged it every day, is I just put it in the back next to the 12-volt adapter, plugged it in, and I just let it go as we were driving and didn't worry about it. And by nighttime, it was always topped back off, because I really wasn't knocking this thing down more than about 75 or 80% of capacity. So, you know, I didn't really need to, you know, run it for 16 hours in the car. Now, they tell you in here, if you're going to charge it from the carport, it can take upwards of 14 hours. That's probably true. But since we only took it down about 20% every night, probably not even that on a couple of nights, because we were really just powering this, using this to recharge our phones and run our electric blanket for a couple hours. And I'll get into some of these other things that we were charging with that to let you know what you might expect. And so we were only knocking it down 15 or 20% from max every night. It was very easy to recharge and top that back off while we were driving. Now, when you plug this into the wall, you can expect about 145 watt input and be able to charge this thing in about 7.5 hours from zero. So that's kind of what you can expect. Obviously, the fastest charge is via the wall. The second fastest would be to charge this with the solar panels, because even with a single solar panel, I was getting on a bright sunny, with proper alignment, bright sunny morning, I was getting 90 watts. That's better than the 75 watts I was getting out of this on the car. So, you know, I guess choose whether or not that justifies spending nearly $300, or if you can get this thing on sale, highly recommend picking that up on sale, because they do run sales a couple times a year. All right, so what can you charge with this? Now, I mentioned the electric blanket. I didn't take any video of that, but I did record kind of what I did. I have an AC, it's not a DC version, it's an AC version, so it uses the AC side. You can run this thing, it's a full size that fits our sleeping area inside the car, and it pulls about 130 watts intermittent, so off and on. And 130 watts is not enough draw to kick the fan on this thing, so it's nice and quiet. The fan will never kick on. In fact, you can run this, and that was at level 4, so which is like just about not quite halfway up on the heat. And so what we would do is we'd put the electric blanket down on our memory foam mattress. Yeah, we're sleeping on a memory foam mattress, whatever. And then we would put a nice comforter on top of that, kind of a down equivalent, not actual down, but a down equivalent comforter on top to kind of hold the heat in. And we'd run this thing for only about an hour to an hour and a half. And then it actually, frankly, at level 4 got too warm and we would just turn it off. And we were fine and cozy for the whole night in temperatures that ranged from about 28 degrees to Fahrenheit to, say, 38. So it was in that sort of 10-degree range as far as the lows every night. So it was cool, but it wasn't like horrible. And we were very toasty with only running our electric blanket. And that took it down to 35% used over an 8-hour period. Now that's if you use it for a full 8 hours, level 4, it would take this down 35%. So you'd be at 65% capacity if you started at 100. Now you can run this at level 10, the top on this particular blanket. And I'll put the blanket, a link to the blanket in the description if you want to go check it out and see what I'm talking about and how it might compare to something that you might want to buy or that you already have. But I could, it'll pull at level 10, its highest level, about 12% capacity per hour, right? So, but it doesn't trip the fan. Still, it still only does that 130 watts intermittent thing. It just uses 130 watts more often than it does when you're at, let's say, level 4 or level 5. So, but in no case when you're using the electric blanket that we were using does it trip the fan. So it stays nice and quiet in the car, which is really helpful for me because I'm an extraordinarily light sleeper. And that would keep me up all night if I had to listen to the fan kicking on and off. All right, so that's the electric blanket. Let's talk a little bit about coffee. Can you brew coffee with this thing with an actual full-size coffee maker? And the answer is yes, you can. So this thing can handle 1,000 watts continuous or 2,000 watts spike. So it will not trip up to 2,000 watts on a spike, and it'll run continuous over 1,000 watts, maybe around 1,200 watts, and for at least 5 minutes or so, without barking. Now, in our case, I did a 10-cup brew and a full-size Cuisinart, and I'll put the video up of that. And I ran it. It took 10 minutes to run the whole cycle. It basically drew about 834 watts the entire time it was brewing, and then as soon as it stopped brewing and it was just using the occasional carafe heater at the bottom, it dropped to 6 watts or something like that. And it used 15% capacity on a single brew of like a 10-cup coffee maker, which is probably kind of an extreme example, but if you're in an RV and you're a heavy coffee drinker and you just want to run that off of this, you can do it. So it's kind of cool. Now I got this mini heater. Again, I'll put a video up there and show you. It's this little mini heater. You can pick these things up for dirt cheap anywhere, and they do a really good job. And this mini heater basically draws about 200 watts continuous. There's no settings on this. It's either on or off. It's not like you can set it on high or medium or low. So there's no settings like that. It is super simple, and it draws about 200 watts continuous. And so if you run this thing, the mini heater, for 30 minutes, it will knock down the battery about 9% or 18% per hour with this little mini heater. Now I brought the mini heater with me, and like I said, we were just toasty pretty much all the time with just using the electric blanket. And so I never actually ended up using the mini heater on this particular car camping trip. So your results may vary. You may be in colder climate, you may need to use it for that. This thing can handle it, no problem. Hair dryer. So this thing actually with a medium heat and a medium fan was drawing 500 watts continuous. All right, and if I changed it from medium heat to high heat, keeping it or medium heat to high fan, keeping it on medium heat, it drew 1,000 watts, and still no problem running the hair dryer. Now, if I left it on high fan and then moved the heat setting to high, that pulled, let's see, 1,400 watts continuous, and this thing ran for about 20 to 30 seconds before the surge protection tripped the unit and shut it off. And it's perfectly safe to do that. It doesn't hurt anything. The protections are built in to this thing, and I had no problem. But I only got, like I said, about 20 or 30 seconds. Now, obviously, I'm not using a hair dryer, but if you've got more hair than me, which is probably most of you, and you use a hair dryer, well, you can do that with this if you're using it high fan, medium heat, and you'll be able to run this thing for quite a fair amount of time to dry your hair. Now, I also did a laptop and a second monitor. It's actually the one that I normally use back here. I'll just put a quick video of that up there. And I was running my laptop and the monitor. I did my laptop without a full charge, so it was having to charge through the AC adapter while powering the monitor. And basically what I saw with that was I was getting about 175 watts, I think, total. And it would drift down to double digits and up to triple digits. But it was able to handle that. So let's say on average, especially if you're not drawing a lot of power at certain times, the power consumption of your laptop is going to drop noticeably. So you could probably get, if you had this thing at 100% charge, you could probably get many hours of use out of this, somewhere up in the neighborhood of maybe, call it 6 or 7 hours charging or powering your, and that's a pretty large monitor. It's like I want to say a 30-inch monitor, but powering that monitor, might even be a 31 or 32, and a gaming laptop. It's a pretty decent sized laptop. It's not a Chromebook. So, and it's got two hard drives in it. So it did a really good job, I guess, with the laptop. I had no complaints about that. Now let me put another video up here about the Instant Pot. I wanted to see if I could run an Instant Pot cycle on there. Now, if I chose a 15-minute recipe, which is pretty common, like you could put in a couple of frozen chicken breasts and actually cook those in a cup of chicken broth in about 15 minutes, and they are absolutely fantastic in the Instant Pot. Now, a 15-minute cycle in the Instant Pot, usually, if you've used one before, equates to about a 10-minute ramp up, and then it's under pressure for 15 minutes, and then it shuts off. So that 15-minute cycle is somewhere around 25 or 30 minutes total. Now, this thing drew about 850 watts intermittent. And as it got near the end, it was drawing very low wattage because the pressure was already in there. It was just holding the pressure. And it wasn't having to keep the heat going to maintain the pressure. And it used on a 15-minute recipe cycle, which again is about 25 or 30 minutes of actual runtime, used 13 minutes of battery capacity. So very doable to actually run something as intense as an Instapot pressure cooker on this thing. So how did I feel about the quality on this thing? Let's talk about that. First of all, your first impression when this thing arrives, I have to say, it's ridiculously well packed. Like the Jackery guys were taking no chances in packing. This thing is packed in a very high quality box with molded foam, locking this thing in with plenty of clearance so it doesn't bounce around. That box was packaged inside a double-walled cardboard box. That box was packaged inside a second double-walled, I'm not even kidding, a second double-walled. I wish I'd done an unboxing. This is crazy. So there are 3 boxes on this thing, and that just should tell you that they want to protect this, they want to protect your investment and make sure it gets to you in good shape. So they definitely fulfilled their concerns in that regard. Now this thing just feels very well made. I like the design with the handle on top. It's got a silly light on the side. I don't know who's going to use that light. I've never used that light. I suppose in some rare circumstance it might come in handy, but I don't see a use for it. So, but whatever. The 12-volt input that it's got here on the front has a nice little rubber cap to keep dust and debris from getting in there. The buttons, when you press the buttons on this thing, there, just for just a moment, maybe you heard the fan. That's how loud the fan is. It's loud enough that if you're a light sleeper, kicking on and off, it might bother you. But this thing, just the buttons just feel really well made. I love the screen. It shows you what your capacity is, both in percent and by a bar chart. It shows you how many watts input you're currently charging the unit, if you are, and how many watts output if you're running other devices. And the LCD is kind of a no-nonsense. It's very high quality. It's very easy to read. It's got a backlight when you need it. And it's just super simple. And it comes with a 2-year warranty. Now, I totally sound like a Jackery fanboy on this. And I have to admit that I am. I really... This thing is expensive. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It is expensive. There are cheaper ones you can get out there. And my one big con with this thing, really, is that the charge times on this particular one, because it has a a lower limit of how much input wattage it can handle, or input volts, for charging, than some of its competitors do, it takes longer than some of the competitors. Now, there's some products like Rock Pals and Bluetti are some other common ones out there. There's a couple other ones as well. But those will charge a little bit faster. I think on balance, I chose the Jackery primarily because my impression of the reputation of this unit and the build quality that I had, the research that I did was very good. And this thing has completely met my expectations in that regard. And those expectations were quite high. Now, aside from that one con about the charge times, it hasn't been a problem for me, especially if you err on the side of getting more power than you think you need versus exactly the amount, or maybe buying one of the smaller units that might be a little underpowered. You're not going to be needing to charge this thing from 0 to 100 all the time. You're just going to be topping it off from 40 or 50 or 60% up to 100, and that takes a lot less time. And if you're doing any driving on your trip, or if you're using the solar panels, whether you're using the Jackery ones or you're using a third party, which, as I mentioned, you can use by plugging into these Anderson connectors on the front. You can get third party solar panels for about $1 a watt instead of $3 a watt. So you can buy non-Jackery solar panels if you want to save some money. Now, in my case, I wanted the portability of the solar panel, since I was going to buy it and carry it around. I did not want to mount it on my car permanently, or even semi-permanently. I wanted to be able to fold it up, stick it under the mattress so it was out of the way. Most of the time, we just slept with this, the solar panel folded in half and slid under the foot of our mattress. And I didn't even get it out until one morning we had really bright sun and I was actually able to use it. So very compact and easy to store that solar panel. So I think that really kind of does it. This thing, as I mentioned, has a 2-year warranty, lifetime tech support. So even if it's no longer in warranty, if you have questions or problems with it, you can contact them and they will interact with you and not ignore you just because your product is out of warranty. Now I just actually noticed this. I got the manual out of the box. As you can see, it's really simple. So the manual, I took a quick peek at it. It's, unlike a lot of manuals from Chinese-made products, which I think this is probably made in China. I'm not 100% sure. I probably should have looked that up before I started talking about it. But I do know that Jackery is a California-based company. So when you talk to them, you're talking to people in California. And the manual is very simple and very well written. So it's not a bunch of gibberish that you're trying to, where it's translated English and it's very difficult to understand what's what. The manual is just very, very well laid out and simple to digest. Now, in addition to the 24-month warranty, when I went and got the manual out, I found this little thing which says, register it with us now and you get an extra 12-month warranty. Now, I don't know how long they're going to continue doing that, but that's a 3-year warranty on this thing. So as soon as I finish filming this, I'm going to go register this because I haven't done that. And that extra year warranties seems like a pretty good idea. Oh, it also occurred to me, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could jump your car? Like let's say you accidentally ran your car battery down because maybe you left it in accessory mode or something like that. Or maybe like a lot of American cars will allow you to charge off the 12 volt without having the keys in the ignition. And let's say you completely depleted your car battery by trying to power your car fridge off the 12 volt adapter and forgot that it was charging when the car wasn't running. Well, they actually do make, I searched on Amazon, and I'll put a link below. I couldn't find the same cable on Jackery's website in their accessories list, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But it does appear to be a Jackery accessory, but it's on Amazon for about, I think it was $35, maybe it was $36. It allows you to plug into the 12 volt output, and it's got jumper cables. It allows you to jump your car without having, so if you're in a remote area and you don't know when the next car is going to come by and your battery's dead, for $35, that might be a decent peace of mind to throw those in your kit somewhere, and you could actually jump your car with this thing. And I think that's compatible with anything down to, I want to say down to the 500 watt unit. You'll have to check on the link in the description to see whether or not it goes down to the 250 watt version, because you can get these in obviously different capacities. So to meet whatever your particular needs are. So anyway, that's all I got for you. This thing was very cool. I had a lot of fun with this, and I look forward to using this for many years to come. So hopefully that was helpful and there was some information in there that you found useful. If there was, please consider giving us a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. We'd love to have you on board. And yeah, so that's all I got. So thanks for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. So until then, have fun out there.